All right, welcome everybody. I'm very excited to share some words about the portion of this week. The portion of this week always somehow has like a gist to it, like something to do with what we're going through. And so it is no coincidence, as you know, the Kabbalists are teaching that the Kabbalistic calendar or the Hebrew calendar that has, what is it, 360 or 328 days in the year, and then there is a leap year every 4 years. It just falls on whatever is going to be the new moon this year was the new moon 5,000 years ago. You see what I mean? So if you look at the full moon in the Gregorian calendar, it would fall around the same date, but it would be, let's say, if I take an exact example, I have that on my phone. So what's the date today? Monday, December 7. Monday, December 7, 2020 still. Okay. So the new moon of Capricorn is going to be the 16th of December, which is in 9 days. But the 16th of December, the previous year, was 12 days before the new moon of Capricorn, right? And so if you're taking, for instance, Tevet 1, it would always fall on the same day 5,000 years ago if you follow the Kabbalistic calendar. If you follow the calendar, the Gregorian calendar, because it is only following the solar calendar, then it is based on 365 days, but not according to the moon. So the Kabbalistic calendar follows both, the solar and the lunar. And so this is why, and the only calendar that follows both. And so that's why this hybrid calendar would always be very exact as far as the new moon always falling on the new moon and the full moon, or let me rephrase, the first of the month of the Kabbalistic month would always fall on the new moon, and the 15th of the month on the Kabbalistic calendar would always fall on the full moon for each month. So this to say that whatever energy we are to discuss in the year 2020 of the energy that is in the cosmos right now, if we go back in the Kabbalistic calendar last year, it is the exact same type of energy. And so this is, even if we don't remember what we ate yesterday, we can be almost certain that the type of tests or challenges or difficulties that we are going through in a specific period is just going to repeat itself because it's part of the cosmos. So you can say, oh, you know, it's like, you know, like when there is like a full moon, it affects the oceans and the animals and the mood of some people, etc. It is affecting, and the cosmos affects us all the time. The planets affect us all the time. And so this is why what we have also pertaining to the calendar also affects us all the time. So when we are talking about like the Kabbalistic calendar, for those that have the Kabbalistic calendar, you can see that on certain days we have something that we would call like positive days, negative days, and neutral days. So it's like, I would say, almost like a weather forecast. On a day when you know it's going to be like minus 20, you're not going to go out with a t-shirt or, you know, and you know, go get a suntan or something, right? Because you know that it's going to be like freezing, especially if you live like up north or St. Louis or Toronto. Now that you're back in Miami, you know it's almost barbecue time, right? I don't know if it's still like in the 70s or the 80s, but it's very comfortable. As you can see, I'm in Los Angeles, but I already like wear long sleeves. So there is also an energetical forecast to say that this day is going to be negative. What does it mean negative? Is there an explanation in Kabbalah, in spirituality in general, as something being positive or negative or good and bad? From a spiritual perspective, there is no such a thing as good and bad. Everything is a life, is a human experience in a physical body. It is the human experience for the soul in this physical body for us to go through challenges, to go through good times, to go through tough times and whatnot. But for the soul, it's all lessons. So even if we go through like a tough lesson, if you speak to a Reiki master, or you speak to a Theta healer, or you speak to all sorts of healers, you know, they would ask you this first question. What is the first question they would ask? Is how does that serve you? So, you know, the first time that, you know, a healer or whatnot was asking me, how does that serve you? I really wanted to slap the person. What do you mean, how does that serve me? The person is hurting me. The person is doing this, total victim, doing this, doing that, doing this, doing that. And yeah, but how does that serve you? What is the lesson? What does the universe trying to teach you? Because from the moment that you've learned that lesson, then you can move on. And this person that's been teasing you for 10 years can move on also. Maybe this person would still be in your life, but they won't interact with you in the same way. So anyway, all this to say, you know, like just went ahead and spoke about things that had nothing to do with a portion of the week, but it doesn't matter because everything has a purpose. And so all this to say that even if we, you know, like we have that voice in our mind, but I studied the portion of Ayeshev last year. Yeah, but even if it's going to be exactly the same words, let's say that you're going to listen to this recording in the next year portion of Vayeshev. The portion is going to be the same, but are you the same? Are you going to be the same? I hope not. But imagine that you're going to listen, you're going to hear exactly the same information, but because you have evolved with so much experience and so many lessons and so many things that enriched you. Again, in spirituality, there is no good and bad. Everything is good. It enriched you. Even if in the moment it feels bad, 6 months later, you look back and you say, wow, thanks God, you know, for me to be out of this situation. It's an experience that helped you to grow. Okay, so I'll still connect it to the portion of the week because it's important. There is a message in there as well. And so just for the connection, I'll read a few words where it says, and it's connected also to what we discussed last week. So there is, you know, like there is a follow-up, there is a transition. It's as is, even if it's like two completely different portions, there is like, you know, like one piece after the other, like it follows one another. And so it starts with Rabbi Chia Patar Ve'amar, and so the students are discussing. And when they're discussing, they're revealing light because it's secrets that are being revealed when they're discussing the energy that is being revealed in that week. רבות רעות צדיק וגומר כמה מקדריקים יש לו. לאדם מיום שנתן לו הקדוש ברוך הוא נשמה בעולם הזה. So we know, and we don't need to be a student of Kabbalah to know that, the soul is pure. But there is another word from a Kabbalistic perspective that calls the soul tzaddik. So the soul is righteous. There is nothing pagum, there is nothing tainted in the soul. So the soul, as an image that we've given before, it's like imagine the onion, and once you peel all the layers of the onion, inside, in the core of the onion is the soul. But in order to reach the soul, you need to peel all the outer layers of the onion. By the way, what happens when you peel the onion? comes out tears, right? Like it feels, it's not easy, it's painful. I hate doing that, by the way. But regardless of the onion example, the soul is considered righteous. Your soul is righteous. No matter what one might think about himself or herself, you are righteous from within. We are covered up with all sorts of traumas and low self-esteem, negative belief systems that we have, um, piled up from this life, previous lifetime, our ancestors, that helped us to carry. Because, even if our ancestors help us, to tap into a spiritual DNA, a talent that we carry from our ancestry, it's not always good. Sometimes it's also, connected to the ancestry's DNA. That can be something that is bad, right? It can be like a curse, or it can be low self-esteem, or it been thoughts of suicide, and that it's been in the family for generation, or alcoholism, or addictions, or um, all sorts of things like that, right? But we like to connect it to the positive thing, because anyway, whoever is connected in this session this evening, we are all righteous and we've never done anything wrong. So the soul is righteous and is covered by all those challenges that we came to cleanse. And so this is why we call it the tikkun process, or another word that we're maybe more familiar with is the karmic process. It's our karma, our correction, that the soul decided in a covenant between the soul and the creator to come and say, I'm this strong and I can take on a gazillion of challenges. Obviously, when we come and we're surrounded by all this physicality, we forget what the soul agreed. So as soon as we're confronted to all the challenges, we say, oh, wait a second, who agreed to that? I didn't agree to that. But anyway, the soul is perfect. The soul is righteous. And how many challenges and challenges has the human being from the day that the Creator gave him a soul in this world, דכיוון שיצא אדם לאוויר העולם. From the moment that he came out and started breathing, מיד נזדמן יצר הרע, immediately is invited the evil inclination to mingle with them, כמו שלמדנו, as we studied last week, שכתוב לפתח חטאת רובץ. As we studied this code word chatat rovetz, within the word chatat is the word chet, which is sinning. כי אז נשתתף עמו יצר הרע. And it is the mission of the evil inclination to make the human being sin. ובו וראה שכן הוא, כי הבהמות מיום שנולדו כולן שומרות את עצמן. There is a correlation or a contrast that is being made here between the human being and an animal. So you can imagine a call for any type of like a baby animal. שומרות את עצמן, they are keeping, they are safeguarding themselves. Like they have like this animal instinct that protects them, that can help them accentuate or increase like the smell or the sense of danger, right? And so they can feel when there is an earthquake, they'd be first to fly, or when there is going to be like a fire, when there is going to be a tsunami, or there is going to be things like that. It seems like the animals, they are more in tune with their sixth sense. But if you would ask anybody in his right sense, and you would say, but who's the smartest? Is it like the cow, or is it the human being, or is it who is the wisest, who is like who has like the third column, right? Who has like the ability for free will? And we would all agree that it's the human being. So what's the lesson here? שומרות את עצמן ובורחות מאש. And so we teach this in class, and here that's where the Zohar is talking about it. If you give a box of matches to a child, and you give or you set a fire in front of the child, and you set a fire in front of a baby cow, you would see immediately who has a stronger instinct. The animal for sure would fly, would run away, would escape for his life. And the baby human being would look at the fire and would be intrigued, would be curious. Never seen fire, has a dancing color. I want to see how it feels. Right? And so you would tell a child not to play with fire, and he would play with fire, certainly. ומכל מקומות הרעים. And so we're not just talking here about the example of the fire or matches. We're talking about every negative aspect that exists in this physical world. Negative aspect, again, is not about good or bad. It's about knowing that even though it's going to give me some instant relief, I know that I'm going to pay for it later on. And so I give this example all the time because I try as best as I can to restrict the pizza that my wife is buying the kids. And every time she buys too much, she buys like this huge pie. Why? Because, she puts it in the freezer and then they can eat it, like throughout the week, or even like leftover for the next week, and just unfreeze it and put it in the toaster oven, which is great. But my Yetzer Hara, my evil inclination, doesn't think in this way. He's not thinking about, let's save for later. We are into thinking about what's going to happen tomorrow. No, my stomach, or whatever you call it, my desire to receive for the self-alone says, listen, if you take one slice, nobody's going to see it. Nobody counted the pieces in the pie. So if you take a slice, nobody's going to come and tell you, why did you take a pie? And by the way, even if my wife knows that I took a pie, she's not going to say anything. But the problem with taking a slice, it's not the problem with that slice. It's because right after this one thin, very thin, tiny slice, it's not going to hurt to take another slice. Because when you put them together, it looks like almost like a 2/3 of a real slice, human being, adult slice. So once you got to the third, then that's the one slice. And then the opponent says, but wait a second, you just got one slice. When you used to eat pizza, you would eat at least half a pie. Why don't you take another slice, which is basically 3 other mini slices? So this is why this is one of the biggest restriction for me, because I love pizza. And it's very difficult. Every time I tell my wife, hide it. As soon as it comes and you serve the kids, hide it, please, I beg you. So it's a perfect example. Food, perfect example. I was talking with somebody not so long ago, and that person is addicted to porn. Addicted to porn. The thing is that the person is not single. He's married with kids and everything, but he's addicted to porn. So the first question I asked was not, do you enjoy the porn? The first question that I asked is, because I knew the answer, I was just asking for confirmation, how's sex with your wife? Not that I'm interested in the details. It's terrible. Obviously, we know the answer. Why? Because when you get into something, you start with something like that, even though you get the instant gratification, afterwards it messes up with your reality. You're starting to project all sorts of things and wishing that your wife would be like A, B, or C, right? And so, again, we spoke before about the laws of attraction. If you're putting out there that this is what you get excitement for, and then you go back to what your life is, and you are making a whole judgment about it, then the universe just has to be responsive, right? And so, For some people, it's food, or other people, it's sex, other people, it's drugs, other people, it's anger and jealousy and judgment, and like it's a non-end, right? And so my favorite section, or my favorite part with this, especially in class, when I'm in a class of like 50, 70, 80 people, where I see like the faces, oh, what, evil inclination? Moi, jamais. Me, never. I don't have any evil inclination. I'm a good person. I spend my life at sharing and caring, and I love the neighbor, and doing all this charitable work, etc., etc. And this is the best of the best scheme or scam of the evil inclination. What is the best scam of the evil inclination is that, first of all, it's part of his job, and he's doing a great job at it, and he has much more experience than us. Why? Because he is thousands of years, if not more. And so what is the biggest scam is that it doesn't exist. So the moment that a person is not challenged or challenging his evil inclination to become even better than he was yesterday, the one that's winning right now, it's the evil inclination. So if we're not at least 1, 2, 3 steps ahead of our spiritual work, what next can I work on? What next can I correct, improve, and cleanse and whatnot? He has 1 step ahead. And if the evil inclination has 1 step ahead, today you feel great about yourself. It's nothing bad to feel good about yourself. You can do really good with your spiritual work through challenges and whatnot, and not feel in a way that, that you're winning the game. The moment that you think that you're winning the game with your opponent, for sure he's winning. So that's why the best question that we need to ask ourselves is, where else am I being tricked? So if you ask each other, hey, how your spiritual work doing? And you give the thumbs up and everything is great, and you're scanning and you're praying and you're sharing and you're volunteering and everything is wonderful, that needs to be the next question. So where is my opponent? Where is my evil inclination? There is another formula that I love sharing about the opponent, is that the opponent, the evil inclination, is as great as your capacity to reveal light. The opponent, the evil inclination, is as great as your capacity to reveal light. So if right now you feel that your opponent is that tiny, so is our capacity to reveal light right now. It's not that we're not revealing light. We do certainly reveal light, but not even close to our capacity. Not even close to the life purpose, to the existence purpose of our soul, what we came to do here. So is the spiritual work supposed to be enjoyable? Absolutely. Absolutely. Imagine when a person, not that I would do that. I can't imagine, we should never say never, but I can't imagine myself ever running the marathon. But imagine a person that runs the marathon. I know a lot of people that trained to run the marathon from zero. They never run the marathon. They started, practicing from running 1 mile, 2 mile, 4 mile, 6 mile, 10 mile, until they got to 24 mile. By the way, the training doesn't include the total length of the marathon. But you know what? They set their mind to run the marathon, and every step of the way, it's challenging. But they keep going. They keep going because they see the progress. They see that a week ago, a month ago, they were not capable to run 5 miles, and look at them. Look at me, I'm running 10 miles. Look at me, I'm running 15 miles. Wow. And the day of the marathon, even if it takes them 5.5 hours, where a professional runs it in like 1 minute 28, without even a sweat. I've seen that, people like traveling from around the world, landing in the place that they're going to run the marathon, they run it in 1 hour and 30 minutes, and they're done. And they don't have not even nothing. What's going on here? So why you do it? Where's the pleasure? Oh, I like it so much. But do you remember the first time that you ran the marathon? That feeling when you crossed the line, that you felt that you'd be never able to do something like that, and you did it? What made you go through the entire process, by the way, which took those people that run for charity? They trained for 10 months and nobody quit. What made them go through with it? It is this desire, this goal, and the progress. Because spiritual work, even though it's challenging and it's hard, you look back 1 week, 1 month, yes, it's challenging and you keep pushing, but you know what? You see yourself growing. You see yourself more positive. You see, and you know what? If you don't look back a week or a month prior to that and there is no change, you're not doing your spiritual work. You're being spiritual, you're acting spiritual, but you're not doing the spiritual work. What's the second word of spiritual work? Work. It is supposed to be work. It is supposed to be challenging. Because if it's not, and you enjoyed it, oh, it was so much fun, and socializing with all our friends, and we shared, and I was so pumped up and energized, and that's pure desire to receive for the self alone. And the one that's winning the game right now, it's the evil inclination. If your spiritual work is not work, that you set yourself a goal and you look back a week, a month past, and you don't see a difference, that's not called spiritual work. And so again, there is a correlation between the animal and the human being. Miyad ba le'ashlich atzmo letoch ha'esh. The human being right away throws himself into the fire. The fire is a synonym. What is the fire? By the way, fire in Kabbalah is left column. It's the desire to receive for the self alone. It's the energy. It's the fire of judgment. And very often when a person sins, there is that fire that's ignited. And I don't know if you've ever felt it. I've felt it before. That you know that you're about to do something that is not okay, and you still do it. It can be even like, get upset, get angry, be judgmental, feel victim, or, choose the wrong path or whatever. In the moment you feel that and then you still go for it. Now, we're human beings, so we need to be kind with ourselves as well. Miyad ba le'ashlich atzmo letoch ha'esh. The human being, it's like almost as if we're doomed to fail. But it's not our purpose. Our purpose is to be successful. But part of our spiritual, physical DNA is the body consciousness, and within the body consciousness is the evil inclination. And within our heart, deep down within our heart, there is the soul that at any given moment, if you let the soul take over, it wins over the evil inclination 10 times fold. And we spoke about it last week. When we choose the positive, the good inclination, it takes over the evil inclination, and the evil inclination becomes slave of the good inclination, and they both work at serving the human being. והוא משום שיצר הרע שורה בתוכו מיד מסיתו לדרך הרע. So it is his mission, the mission of the evil inclination, to make us jump into the fire. What is our mission? Our mission should be the mission of the soul. What is the mission of the soul? Seek. Look for every opportunity to reveal light. Now, it's a little bit more challenging to reveal light from light. It is so much more easy to reveal light from darkness. So it's almost as if we're like a spiritual Indiana Jones, seeking those quests, those difficulties, those challenges, challenging moments, challenging people, from which we can and are revealing light from restricting, not getting reactive, not getting upset, shutting our mouth in the moment where we want to respond so quickly. There is an expression in French, turn your tongue 10 times before you speak. Do we have an expression like this in English or no?
Bite your tongue.
Bite your tongue. You see, like the French, they are more sophisticated with their tongue. That was a joke. ממלאך זהו היצר הרע, שהוא נקרא מלך ושליט בעולם, על בני האדם זקן וכסיל. הוא וראה זקן כמו שבראהו, שמיום שהאדם נולד ויצא לאוויר העולם, הוא נמצא עם האדם, ועל כן הוא מלך זקן וכסיל. And so it says about the evil inclination that he is compared to an older man, a king, that is silly, or even like the word is harsher. It's ksil is more like stupid. לא כתיב להזהיר אלא להיזהר, משום שהוא כסיל. ועליו אמר שלמה, והכסיל בחושך הולך. And so King Solomon spoke at length about the evil inclination and says about that king, that silly king, והכסיל, and the silly man, בחושך הולך, is walking in darkness. כי מפסולת החושך הוא בא. Why? Because he's stemming from darkness. ואין לו אור לעולם, and he doesn't have light for the world, אבל מי שאינו יודע להיזהר לאחרים, אינו נחשב עוד לכסיל מחמת זה. בוא וראה כתוב טוב, ילד מסכן וחכם. And then the good inclination is compared to a child that is poor and wise. And so the students are asking, who is ילד מסכן, the poor child? ואומר, and the answer of רבי שמעון, הנה בראו, ולמדנו שהוא יצר הטוב. And we learn that it is the good inclination. זהו שכתוב, and it is written, נא ראיתי גם זקנתי. And I was a young man, and I became wise. וזהו נער שהוא ילד מסכן. And so the young man is the poor child, שאין לו בעצמו כלום. That from himself, or by himself, to himself, he has nothing. And it's an interesting correlation because we think about all our possessions. And a man who is, I would say, successful in this physical world is a man that has a lot of possessions. That determines in our society somebody who is poor and somebody who is rich. Somebody who is rich is somebody who has a lot of possessions, real estate, investments, money, cars, whatnot. And somebody is poor is somebody that doesn't have any physical attachment or any physical belongings. ולמה נקרא נער, and why is he called young? הוא משום שיש לו חירוש הלבנה, שהיא מתחדשת תמיד. Because that young man has something that the other doesn't, that is connected to the Shekhinah, שהיא מתחדשת תמיד, that he is always renewing. והוא תמיד ילד מסכן, and he is always poor, כמו שאמרנו, וחכם משום שהחוכמה שורה בו. And so he is always wise because wisdom always emanates from him. But that is like the correlation is made with, with the poor. Again, when we're talking about poor, it's not necessarily that, for mankind to seek, to destitute ourselves from any 1% physical belongings. On the contrary, it is more so to the attachment to physical things. There are a lot of righteous, there are a lot of spiritual people that are very wealthy. But the wealth that they have is not at the cost of their spiritual elevation. In other words, if you are poor in your consciousness, meaning that to the physical attachment So very often when I speak to people about, that want to be more successful and whatnot, I would ask this question. To the degree that you want to receive something in life, if it's money, a better car, a watch, or whatnot, physical things, if to the same degree you're willing to let it go, meaning not to have it and be okay and be happy, then you're ready to receive it. But it's not about the physical possession. From the moment that we are attached to physicality, this is where we're not poor anymore. We have all sorts of belongings, but when it's time to go, meaning to die, nobody takes anything to the grave. Did you notice that? I mean, in some civilization, they bury, the man or the woman with all sorts of ornaments and gold and jewels and all sorts of things like that, right? But once the body is gone, physicality means nothing. So imagine if to the place where we are right now, we are detaching ourselves emotionally from the physical things. Not that we don't appreciate, I appreciate a lot physical things, but if I don't have them, I'll be okay. I traveled the world, not the entire world, but to a few places where it is necessary to go to. And if it's not those places, I'm sure that there are many other places like that. I traveled to Malawi and I traveled to Madagascar, I traveled to Ethiopia, and I spent a few months in there. And one thing that I can tell you for certain is that the greatest amount of happiness that I've seen in the world, it is in those places. Doesn't make sense. Now, the top 10 poorest countries in the world, how do you explain that? Why? Because their happiness is not based on what possessions they have. They don't have any possessions. They don't have iPhones. They don't have Maseratis. They don't have Rolex. In some of those countries, like Malawi, like the monthly average pay is $5. So if suddenly, let's say you tip them $20, $20, this person is considered like, wow, you just paid this person 4 months, 4 or 5 months of salary. Can you imagine? $20. But those people are still extremely happy. They look for every opportunity to party. So obviously they have like all sorts of rums and different alcohols to help them with the gist of the happiness. But they're not all drunk. They're happy people. And even if their life is simple, there is so much to envy in that life because they don't need the physical things to be happy. So don't worry, it's not that I'm about to live my comfortable life, in the United States, in Los Angeles. But now that I'm speaking about it, just my rent can pay them like 10 years of their salary. It is horrendous what's going on in this country, in this state, in California. I mean, it's not the most expensive. I mean, you go to places like New York or other places like London or Paris or Tokyo or places like that. It's I really don't know how people do. Like it's so out of perspective. And it's only when people travel the world and travel to those places that they can put things in perspective. And when they go back home, they realize, wow, my trouble, they're not trouble. My problems, they're not problems. So we can continue on and on. Maybe we can continue that next week. I just read one paragraph. So imagine. So anyway, any questions? It's a little dark here. You should have told me. That's better. Even more light. Look at that. Wow. So,
hey, Yehuda.
Hey,
Hello.
Rich.
How are you?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Just to review, we got off on a discussion about, how we have so much material things. Remind me of the main point of this discussion today. What was the main gist of the talk? I think I just spaced out for a moment, but we got off on a discussion about real life things, Malawi, London, rents, etc. And what was the point of today's talk?
I mean, there were like 2 or 3 points. One of the points was to really appreciate what capacity we have to connect to things that are beyond physical things, because the evil inclination wants us to be more focused on physicality, on possessions, on emotions, on the past, on the future, on worry and stress. Where if we live in the present and appreciate the little things that we have that are beyond physicality, such as, our ability to be happy for no reason, our ability to appreciate the things that we have, our ability to make other people happy. The second point maybe is also about understanding a little bit better the evil inclination. That the evil inclination is, even though it is older, it is also very silly, and its objective is to make us disconnect. Its objective is to make us stray away from the light, where the soul, the light of the soul, is young, is pure, and is poor. But again, it's not the poor that we are neglecting or rejecting all physical possessions. We are pushing away as best as we can our emotional attachment to physical things. Was there another point? There was potentially another point. I went completely Gemini on you today.
You were talking about it's the same full moon or new moon today as it was 5,000 years ago.
On the Kabbalistic calendar, yes. Yep. Because on the Kabbalistic calendar, the new moon is always going to be the first of the Kabbalistic month, and the full moon is always going to be the 15th of the Kabbalistic month. With the Gregorian, it follows a calendar, but once it's the 15th or the 13th or the 23rd or whatnot, the Kabbalistic calendar, it's very mathematical. And so in connection to that, to maybe pay a little bit more attention to what the calendar has to offer as a forecast. So when we look at the calendar and we have some decisions to make them in days that are more positive, because there would be more assistance. If it is a negative day, it's not that we need to hide. It is that we need to know that it's going to be a little bit more challenging with our left column, with our desire to receive for yourself alone. We're going to be triggered easier. So imagine that you have a calendar for that, then you can prepare better. So if you know that tomorrow is going to be a negative day, okay, so tomorrow is going to be a negative day, I probably might be triggered. So because I know it, I can prepare better.
Thank you.
Which doesn't mean that if it's going to be a positive day, you're not going to get reactive, but you understood what I'm saying.
Yes, sir. Thanks.
You're welcome. Any other question? Great. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. It was a real pleasure, and we'll meet again next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yehuda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.